I don't know why Oklahoma State isn't getting the respect they deserve. Their preseason win total was set way too low. Fans across the country are saying they're not going to be that good. And I look at this team and I look at you and I go, what are you on? The Cowboys won 10 games last year. They were the Big 12 runner-up last year. They returned practically everybody from that team last year. The team they lost to in the Big 12 championship, Texas, is gone to the SEC. Their biggest rival, Oklahoma, that's played them for years, is gone to the SEC. The Cowboys are one of the best teams in this conference. They are a favorite to win the Big 12 championship, and rightfully so. So welcome back to the Gridiron Expert, guys. Ready to break down the Oklahoma State Cowboys. We're going to give them the respect they deserve today. No doubt about that. As always, please continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home of our expert picks and our exclusive newsletters. Tons of exclusive content over there, guys. Go sign up for those today. The earlier you sign up for the newsletter, the earlier you sign up for those expert picks, the better it's going to be for you. We're giving you exclusive college football content all year long, and we want you to become a member of our Nation. So go check it out. Again, everything down in the description below. So Oklahoma State, again, we talk about it. They have some of the most experienced people coming back this year. One of the most experienced teams in the country this year coming back. And people are going, oh, they're not going to be that good. 7 wins, 8 wins, stuff like that. And it's absurd to me. Yeah, last year it was a rough start. 2-2, including a blowout loss to South Alabama. But then they won 7 of their final 8 regular season games. Lost to Texas in the Big 12 championship. And then beat Texas A&M in their bowl game to finish with 10 wins. Now you look what they've got coming back. 10 starters back on offense, led by the nation's leading rusher in Ollie Gordon. Rushed for over 1,700 yards and 21 touchdowns last season. He gets to run behind an offensive line that returns everybody. An offensive line that has a combined 214 career starts, one of the most experienced offensive lines in the entire country. They've got their quarterback returning, and Alan Bowman threw for over 3,400 yards and 15 touchdowns last year. Sure, he needs to cut down on the turnovers, had 14 interceptions, so that touchdown-to-interception ratio wasn't great, but I expect those numbers to improve, especially if he can stay healthy, and he should behind that strong offensive line, and he gets 2 of his top wide receivers back in Brennan Presley and Rashad Owens. Both players had over 890 reception yards last year. This offense was great last season. Ollie Gordon's the workhorse, but if he goes down or he gets bottled up, this passing attack can beat you too. They are loaded offensively, and they are loaded defensively. 9 starters back on that side of the ball, and they're going to improve. Last year, they weren't all that great. Allowed 28.6 points per game, over 440 yards per game, and the secondary was atrocious, giving up nearly 300 passing yards per game. But now their top 4 tacklers do return, led by Nicholas Martin, who had 140 tackles last year at the linebacking position. Kendall Daniels, alongside him, 105 tackles last year. Trey Rucker, 100 tackles last year. 3 guys with at least 100 tackles last season. And then Colin Oliver, 6 sacks, 9.5 tackles for a loss. This is a dangerous front 7 for the Cowboys. The secondary is going to get better. This team has the makings of being a Big 12 champion, and they have a very, very good schedule to go along with it. But the thing is, all this hype, it's warranted. They deserve that hype. They deserve to be considered a Big 12 title contender. But everything could go south in the first 2 weeks. Those first 2 games for the Cowboys are not easy at all. They open up at home against South Dakota State, and some people are going to go, oh, it's an FCS school, let's mark it up as a win. You can't do that. This is a Jackrabbits team that's won back-to-back FCS national championships. They are 29-1 over their last 2 seasons. The only loss came in the 2022 season opener to Iowa, and they only lost that game 7-3. So they've won 29 straight games in 2 national titles over the last 2 years. This is not an easy game for Oklahoma State. If they sleepwalk through this game, if they aren't ready to go, kind of like they were with South Alabama last year, they will lose, and the season all goes, you know where it goes. Not in a good place. I don't think they're going to lose to South Dakota State. I think they're going to beat the Jackrabbits, but do not be surprised if this game is a lot closer than you think. The Jackrabbits are the real deal. Then they take on Arkansas. That's another game that's intriguing, right? First meeting against the Razorbacks since 1980. I don't expect a lot out of Arkansas this year. I really don't, but that is a losable game. The Razorbacks have some newfound life with Bobby Petrino coming in as the offensive coordinator. Better quarterback play, possibly with Taylon Green coming in from Boise State. Defense really wasn't all that bad for the Razorbacks last year. Kind of got undermined because of how bad the offense was. Both sides of the ball should be improved. The Razorbacks are going to give the Cowboys everything they've got. It's not going to be some easy W for the Cowboys. I do think they win, but it won't be easy. So those first 2 games, Oklahoma State should win, but very well could be losses or very well could be very close, maybe closer than people expect. So 2-0, but be mindful. They cruise past Tulsa, I think, 3-0 there, and then we get into conference play. And what a great way to start it, bringing in one of the newcomers. Welcome to the league, Utah. Utah, one of the favorites to win the conference this year, comes to Stillwater for their first meeting against Oklahoma State since 1945. How about that? 2 of the best teams in this conference, though, face off this early in the year. It has major Big 12 title implications. It could be the first of 2 meetings between these squads. Utah, Oklahoma State, Kansas State. Those are probably the top 3 teams in the conference this year. So it's going to play a major role. Look at that. Oklahoma State has to play those 2 other teams in back-to-back weeks. I'm going to give them the win over the Utes, though. I'm going to give them the win. Home field advantage going to play a big role here. And if you break it down, into categories, I think Oklahoma State owns the offensive edge. I know Cam Rising's back. I know Brent Keithy's back. This Utah offense is going to be way better than we saw last year, but Oklahoma State still owns that edge. Defensively, I give the edge to Utah. They are loaded defensively. And it's going to be one of those games where Alan Bowman might have to win the game through the air. The Utes only allowed 83 rushing yards per game last year. So Bowman's going to have himself a pretty good day through the air, and I think he's going to be able to do that with his top 2 receivers back in a Utah secondary that's going to be solid, but maybe not enough to win this game on the road. Give me the Cowboys to start 4-0, beating Utah, but they dropped their first game on the road at Kansas State. Take a deep dive. Last year, they beat Kansas State as 11.5-point underdogs. Beat them 29-21 in Stillwater. But Kansas State was just, mistake-ridden. 3 turnovers for the Wildcats in that game. They had a pick 6 in there. Weren't able to get much going offensively, so credit to the Cowboys defense for that. But despite all of that, Kansas State still had a chance to tie the game with a little under 3 minutes remaining. Oklahoma State allowed 167 rushing yards in that game. Kansas State in Manhattan, it's a very difficult place to play. With revenge on their mind, with a dangerous quarterback-running back duo of Avery Johnson, DJ Giddens, Oklahoma State's defense not going to be able to stop the run, especially on the road. Wildcats get the win, and things get crazy in the Big 12. Oklahoma State owns the tiebreaker over Utah. Kansas State's going to own the tiebreaker over Oklahoma State. What happens the rest of the season will determine who plays in that Big 12 championship game. So they are 4-1 heading into the month of October. Things going to get easier for them there. I think they win their next 4 games. And I don't mean to bypass it all, but they're going to beat West Virginia at home, beat the Mountaineers on the road by 14 last year thanks to 28 fourth-quarter points and a 282 rushing yard day by Ollie Gordon. West Virginia gave up 144 rushing yards per game last season. Not very good. They're going to be much better up front on the defensive line, much better in the front 7, and both these teams are going to be very good at running the ball. And we know that's what the Mountaineers want to do with 3 players with over 700 rushing yards. But ultimately, home field advantage plays a role here, and I still like the Cowboys' offense a little bit more than West Virginia, so they get that win. Coming out of the bye week, I think they beat BYU, Baylor, and Arizona State. Those are all very winnable games, the toughest of which is going to be on the road at Baylor. You look at the BYU game first. They won by 6 in double overtime last year. They outgained BYU by 176 yards, 503 offensive yards for Oklahoma State, only 327 for BYU, yet the Cowboys trailed 24-6 at halftime and had to battle back to win. Take a deeper look. Oklahoma State was held to 2 first-quarter field goals inside the 25-yard line. They score touchdowns there. They're up 14-0. Like that, the tone's been set. BYU does not battle back. They do not end up taking that 24-6 lead at halftime. So Oklahoma State kind of screwed up there. They had a 13-yard pick 6, giving more momentum and more points to BYU. Then they had their PAT blocked with 53 seconds left, allowing BYU to go down there and tie the game instead of having to get a touchdown. So many things went wrong for Oklahoma State. They still got the win, but it should have been a much larger margin of victory. Now BYU, they've got a lot more talent coming back, but still a ways away from competing with the top dogs in the Big 12. You take a deeper look at that year, people are going to go, oh, BYU almost won, so now they're going to win at home. That deep look tells you that's not the case. So they beat the Cougars. They're going to beat Baylor, who's much improved, but the Cowboys have won 3 straight over the Bears, and Baylor's defense allowed 185 rushing yards per game last year. Ollie Gordon has himself a big day, despite the Bears adding so many transfers on both sides of the ball. They cruised past Arizona State for the 3rd year in a row. Last year and 2 years ago, played Arizona State in a home-and-home non-conference series. Now it's a conference game. Who would have thought? They cruised past the Sun Devils, though, who could arguably be the worst team in the Big 12 this year. They still try to rebuild under Kenny Dillingham. And then they go on the road to TCU. Still a one-loss team. Still only a couple of weeks left in the year, but TCU is a trap game if I've ever seen one. The Horned Frogs are going to be much better than their 5-7 record showed last year. And it should be noted that the road team in this series is 2-9 in the last 11. This will be one of the toughest tests, maybe the toughest test for Oklahoma State's secondary all year long. Prior to that, you look at the teams they're facing, not many of these teams are going to want to air it out that much. Kansas State wants to run. West Virginia wants to run. I'm not really concerned about quarterback play from BYU, Baylor, Arizona State. Cam Rising probably going to be the toughest quarterback they face up until this point. Now you've got a TCU team with Josh Hoover, who is getting a lot of excitement down in Fort Worth. You've got an offense that averaged over 300 passing yards per game last year. This Oklahoma State secondary, I think, is going to be kind of on autopilot, kind of coasting throughout the rest of the year. Then they get to TCU, the Horned Frogs pop them in the mouth, and they pull off the upset. Home field advantage plays a big role. TCU's defense with 9 starters back bottles up Ollie Gordon. Alan Bowman not going to be able to deliver the game through the air here. TCU wins this game behind the strength of their passing game and home field advantage. Oklahoma State takes their second loss. Could be detrimental when it comes to the Big 12 championship, depending on what Utah's done, depending on what Kansas State has done, depending on what maybe TCU's done at this point. Who knows? But they come out of their bye week, and I do think they win their last 2. They should beat Texas Tech at home. To me, this is a very similar spot and a similar game to the BYU game we saw last year. Game at home, off a week of rest. Oklahoma State should maybe win comfortably, but Texas Tech plays them a lot closer than people expect, but the Cowboys still come out with a win. That's what we've got there. And then on the road at Colorado, old Big 12 foes reuniting here, reigniting this rivalry. This defense for Oklahoma State will be tested. Secondary especially. Shadur Sanders and that passing attack going to be very, very tough. But the Colorado defense, I'm still not sold on. I'm not sold on Boulder's home field advantage, especially if the Buffaloes are out of bowl contention at this point. Yes, it's senior day, but the Cowboys are going to have a lot more to play for than Colorado at this point in the year. It's close for about a half, maybe midway through the third quarter, but Oklahoma State gets the win to finish the year at 10-2. So back-to-back 10-win seasons. This time, the Cowboys get 10 in the regular season. But will it be good enough with 2 conference losses? Will it be good enough to get back to the Big 12 championship and maybe good enough to get into the college football playoff? If they can win the Big 12 title, they will go to the playoff. All the conference champions will. So an interesting year for Mike Gundy's squad. One of the most talented squads he's had in years. One of the most experienced squads he's had in years. Texas is gone. Oklahoma's gone. Can Oklahoma State take advantage of it? So guys, as always, thank you so much for watching us here at the Gridiron Expert on YouTube. Make sure to continue to like, comment, subscribe, share our videos, and of course, check out everything down in the description below. That includes our website, thegridironexpert.com, home to those weekly newsletters, home to those expert picks, so do not miss out on those. Go sign up today and become a member of our GE Nation. And once again, as always, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you next time right here on the Gridiron Expert.